Okay, guys, I guess we can start now. Hi all, hope you guys are doing well. So, welcome to the 11th API Manager community call session. I'm Dushan, a software engineer from the API management team. Today, we will be discussing what you need to know when delivering a successful API. And also, this is an open forum, so all questions are welcome. You guys can enter your questions via the chat or unmute during the end of the presentation and present your questions. So I'll be sharing my screen now. Hope you guys can see my screen. This is today's agenda. So we'll first give a brief overview on why APIs are important and go into each aspect on what it takes to deliver a successful API. So let's start. So first thing I want to clear out is why these APIs are becoming important in the modern world. So most digital-driven organizations these days are becoming highly dependent on APIs, and a lot of organizations have high volumes of traffic that is going through APIs, and most organizations are moving away from a traditional monolithic-based architecture and into microservices-based architectures. So the backbone of the micro-based architectures are APIs. So APIs sit between consumers and customers, which help drive value to the organization. So these aspects make APIs an important aspect in the current integration world. So first, let's see about API design. So when designing an API, traditionally we used to follow a top-down approach, which is we will first design, implement, and document our API, and then deploy it to production. However, this is where when we are talking about microservices, this offers a bit of less flexibility. So as far as most of you are aware, when it comes to microservices architecture, we should have the flexibility to individually change each component and scale it according to the way it wants. And having a top-down based architecture for API design is not very popular these days. So what a good API design would follow is more of a bottom-up based architecture, which will have the API developers always build, deploy, and test the APIs and until they're satisfied, and then push that code to a version control system to and then build and test it and promote it to different environments through some kind of CI/CD process. So this will help us to quickly promote changes, quickly develop and promote changes into different environments. So this having a continuous integration mindset for building APIs is key in this modern microservices architectures. So next thing, what is important when delivering a successful API is API governance. So some problems that organizations face when having an API strategy is that once the APIs have been published, they might lose control over it. Having a good control plane which has which the organization has set some set of standards to manage these APIs are key when having a long-term API strategy. So some good characteristics of this a good control plane is that which will allow the managers to have certain set of approval and reject mechanisms to approve changes to different higher environments. Also having proper versioning, lifecycle management, and maybe workflows are for these control planes. Next is something that is very important, and that a topic that we can really go in depth to, that is API security. So API security becomes a crucial part of any API based system, because security, one of the jobs of any API gateway would be to protect the backend from any kind of security threats. So when talking about security, first thing is most important thing is the authentication and authorization part. So any API should be able to restrict access to its resources based on the person who is accessing it. And usually an API gateway which sits in between the API and the client is responsible for this. Most of modern API gateways use some kind of standards that is based on OAuth 2.0 to achieve this. And also there might be certain scenarios where the API gateway needs to propagate some user details to the backend. Also, when I say backend, it's the backend API from the API gateway. So this also should be possible from any API gateway that is sitting in between your API. So other than authentication and authorization, the other methods of security, other mechanisms of API security should protect against any malicious content that is attacking the API, or maybe DOS attacks, something like that. So any digital driven organization should always provide very control over to the security, because if you do not have a good grasp on the security principles regarding APIs, anyone could exploit it. So some few methods that are usually used in protecting your APIs against security are the rate limiting methods, which also can help in protecting against DOS attacks, or maybe some environment-based methods such as setting up firewalls, and also some gateways has the capabilities of validating the request schema validations. And also modern API solutions have the ability to do adaptive authentication, which will continuously track the people who are authenticating and identify different patterns. So something like stolen token could be identified through these mechanisms. So when talking about modern APIs, scaling and availability is key for its success. So as I stated before, digitally driven organizations have thousands of APIs being invoked every second. So it is always important that you have the proper infrastructure set up here, so that at any given time you are able to cater to the load. So when talking about infrastructure, this could be a cloud-based infrastructure or any on-prem infrastructure. So if you're going for a cloud-based infrastructure, it is very important that you pay attention to auto scaling, that your deployment should be able to scale up and down depending on the load, because if you always have a high performance system, this could directly impact the cost of the cloud-based systems. This might not very auto scaling might not be very important if it's an on-prem system. And also high availability is a crucial part of any API, as I said a few minutes ago, that since thousands of APIs are always been invoked, just saying it's 95% available, 98% available isn't viable these days. You need to have that 100% availability all the time. And also there can be certain failures that occur in between, but the key thing is how we can recover, how fast we can recover from these failures. And also we should always think about what kind of backups we have for these APIs and how many regions we have deployed into. And when recovering from a failure, there are a lot of things we need to consider, such as like whether the system depends on the external party when booting up, and how long does it take to boot up. So it is very important that we have these facts straight when building a successful API. So finally, something that is very important going forward when building APIs is API analytics. So I'm just not talking here about just business information. There are other kinds of information that APIs give out that will help your organizational strategy. So for example, the operational information that will help help us to monitor the API's health, which will provide information such as CPU usage, memory, and storage of the system. This will, if you have a good strategy in place to monitor the operational information, this system should be able to send out any alerts as soon as any issue occurs. And also we have error diagnostic systems. This allows us to quickly find a root cause of any error that occurs after an alert has been sent through the operational information. We should be able to quickly diagnose this issue. So, and finally, the business information, which is normally what most people think when we talk about API analytics, is very crucial to making any key business decisions and going forward how to tune your API system. So let's talk about how WSO2 API Manager fits in all of this. So regarding the designing part of the APIs, so we have state-of-the-art control planes for the publisher, the developer portals, and also the admin portal. These all are React-based apps and offer a lot of features, and which will allow you to design and develop, document the APIs. And also you have capability to enable different workflows and approval methods for different life cycles or signups for APIs. And talking about the different security mechanisms available in the WSO2 API Manager, we mainly support OAuth2-based security mechanisms. Also, we have available for API keys, basic auth, and mutual SSL-based authentication. We also have different rate limiting capabilities at subscription level and application level. We also have other security capabilities such as threat protectors, request schema validation, and some latest features such as bot detection capabilities. The way we offer the access control is using scopes mainly, but we also support SACML-based access control. And when talking about deployments, we can deploy WSO2 API Manager in any VM-based deployment or any containerized deployment. And different deployment, if I go into different deployment patterns, so we have the capability to deploy this in a single instance or in a fully distributed manner. And also we can deploy in a hybrid manner also, where a part would be in cloud and you have an on-prem part as well. And finally, the WSO2 API Manager also offers a great analytics platform which has good reporting capabilities and a good alert system. So guys, that's about it. So now we are open for any questions. So I guess we do not have any questions today. So guys, thank you for joining the API Manager community call. So our next session is on July 23rd, and this recorded meeting will be available in our API Live YouTube channel.
Dushan, I think there's a question on the chat.
Sorry. Yes, so the question is how we can personalize the analytics module with custom dashboards. For example, I want to store the API request like a log. Oscar, we have capabilities of API Manager, the API SP dashboarding widgets. So you can create a custom dashboard using WSO2 stream processor. I guess the documentation is available. You can create a custom widget and access the stream processor events that are coming. So our analytics is based on stream processor. So you will essentially be using that. So there is a mechanism in which you can create custom widgets in this. Okay, great. So are there any more questions? So I guess we don't have any more questions. Yeah, so yes, I will share the information in Slack. There is a documentation available. This is regarding the custom widget. So I will share how to create the custom widgets in Slack.
Hi, can we do the custom widgets in 2.0 as well? 2.6, API Manager 2.6, or is that only in 3.0?
We can do it in 2.6 as well.
Okay, and that custom widget is similar to how we do it in App Dynamics or Splunk and all that, right? Creating a dashboard, correct? When you say custom widget, is that what you mean? Like creating a dashboard?
I am not very familiar with App Dynamics or Splunk, but what we have to do is it would be some kind of React-based widget, which we can then copy into the SP, and you can basically the similar way that we already have publisher and dev portal widgets, it would be a similar widget to that.
Okay. Yeah, it would be great if you can share some kind of documentation or like a how to do it and stuff.
Yeah, sure. I will share in the API Manager Slack community channel.
Thank you. And is that different when you say stream processor, right? Is that different from streaming integrator? You have something called streaming integrator, right? If I'm not wrong, which goes in parallel to enterprise integrator. I think you have something called streaming integrator. Is that different from this, or are both the same?
It's a bit different. Streaming integrator is a new product that we have introduced. So it is also based on the WSO2 stream processor.
Okay, so we need to so we already have analytics which we are using along with API Manager in 2.6 that comes within the portal, right? Within the publisher portal or the store portal. So do we need to add stream processor, or is it already there, or would it already there? I think for analytics to work, it should be already there, right?
Yes,
In
so
2.6.
basically the analytics is based on implemented on top of stream processor using the stream processor features. So you should be able to add custom widgets on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, do we have any more questions? Okay, guys, I guess that's it for today's session. Thank you for joining. So the next community call will be on July 23rd, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is API Live, which will be available, which the recording will be available. And also you can join us in Slack, and also try to subscribe to our Twitter account as well, which is at WSO2 API Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.